Hiya! And welcome back to Adastra. Fuck, that's loud. The game that gave us all emotional damage. And the safest option for favorite furry games. Anyways, a couple things. First off, I am finally caught up with stream uploads to YouTube. They're all there. Woo! Along with something a little extra for people who want it, like another emotional damage checkpoint. Anyways, let's just jump right in. The idea of me staying in Neferu's room constantly for the foreseeable future doesn't last long. In fact, a few hours later, I find myself leaving his quarters and wandering the halls of the palace like I have so many times before. Cato and Cassius probably won't be back for a little while, so I don't really have anything to be worried about as far as I know. Just as I'm thinking this, I see something out of the corner of my eye. A gray tail, green stripes. Alexios. Seeing the cat suddenly reminds me of all those suspicions I've been keeping bottled up about him, if only to keep the peace in the palace. Again, with all that thrown out the window, I find myself fast walking in Alex's direction, determined to confront him. While I feel like complete shit after what's happened, I also feel completely liberated. Cat's out of the bag. I can basically say whatever I want now. Well, mostly. Definitely should still be careful. I turn the corner as I'm thinking this, and I find myself standing just a dozen feet away from the cat, Alex bent over as he waters one of the plants. He's humming and he's smiling when he looks up at me. That smile immediately vanishes. He drops his watering can, sending it and the contents spilling across the floor with a clanging noise. He basically lost all chance of looking not suspicious in the first second he saw me. Ah! Marco, how are you this fine morning? Terrible. What are you doing? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Are you feeling ill? What happened to your arm? Alex's eyes go to the bandage on my bicep, but I ignore him, taking a step forward. In response, he takes one back. What have you been up to? Up to? His eyes dart left and right as if looking for an escape. Telling Neferu about me, telling the triumvirates about what I told you. I don't know if he actually did the last one, but his reaction seems to tell me. His eyes widen as he backs away. I have no idea. Did you talk to Cato yesterday after you saw me in the gardens last night? You realize what's happening right now, right? Marco, you're scaring me. The cat continues to back away. I follow, and that's when Alex just gives up on his act, turns tail, and sprints down the hall. Before I know it, I'm running after him, my eyes focused on his thrashing tail as his sandals slap against the marbled floor. Stop chasing me! I don't know what you want! I don't bother responding, starting to reach out to grab the back of his robes. Just as I make contact, though, he comes to a sudden halt, pressing himself against the wall so that I stumble and slide past him. He's at a door, and he presses his paw to the black panel so that it slides open before he dashes inside. I don't think he was really thinking about where he was going to end up, because I know that that's the bathing room, and I know he's trapped. I turn around and run inside after him, just in time to see him, still sprinting, slip dramatically on the wet floor, flying through the air for a moment before landing painfully on the corner of the bath. I hear him wheeze before he plunges into the... I'm sorry, that's Looney Tunes level bullshit. That is Looney Tunes level bullshit. Okay, let's reread that. I don't think he was really thinking about where he was going to end up, because I know that that's the bathing room, and I know he's trapped. I turn around and run inside after him, just in time to see him, still sprinting, slip dramatically on the wet floor, flying through the air for a moment before landing painfully on the corner of the bath. I hear him wheeze before he plunges into the hot water. Is he going to jump out like he just sat down on like a like a pin or something. He's going to like jump up in pain. Like, I swear, because this is like Looney Tunes level bullshit. If he lost his breath, it comes back up with a gasp, letting that all in a scream of pain. Ah! Hot! The cat scrambles out of the water clumsily, scrabbling at the sides with his claws before finally rolling out, looking small and disheveled with his fur all matted up against his skin. He curls up, and to my surprise, I see that he's crying. The sight alone is enough to give me some doubts that Alex is a conniving saboteur I think him to be. He looks so pathetic right now. I stand over him for a bit, looking down at his pitiful form before clearing my throat. You okay? Okay, I think you broke my ribs. Me? You're the one that ran away for no reason. No reason. You advanced upon me in a threatening manner. The cat curls up again and makes some more sobbing noises. And I'm between believing him and believing that he's flat out faking. Sit on the bench. I reach down a hand to help him up, but he swats it away. I narrow my eyes. Answer my questions, Alex. The cat finally sits up, sniffling and rubbing at his nose while the other paw clutches at his side. I have no answers. I'm simply a pet. Painfully, Alex gets to his feet before setting himself gingerly on the bench while stripping off his wet robe. Yeah, and I was simply a pet just yesterday. I'm not as stupid as you think, Alexios. Alex looks up at me, that pathetic, sad look replaced by one that I can't really explain. When he remains quiet, I try again. I know everyone has interests here. What are yours? Maybe we have the same ones. You're not being very subtle, are you? What you did yesterday wasn't subtle at all. Who else would have told Cato that I was conscious again, that me and Amicus are lovers? Alex frowns, then shrugs. How am I supposed to know? I told Cassius last night. He could have told a number of people, especially Cato. That makes me pause. Of course Alex talks to Cassius on a regular basis, probably every night. It would make much more sense that the wolf was the one to tell Cato, rather than Alexios. But what about the lovers thing? You were the only one that suspected. Well, him and Neferu, but I know Neferu wouldn't tell. Alex scoffs, having taken off his robe and in the process of examining his side. It looks fine to me, no blood or anything, but he winces as he prods at it. You think it wasn't obvious? It was a prominent rumor ever since the first trial. That, and I guess Cato did walk in on us in bed together. I feel my resolve failing a bit, but then I remember Neferu again. But Neferu told me that you confessed my intelligence to him. Why would you do that? This time, the cat's reaction is rather different, his ears blushing as he looks away. He was curious about you, and he can be persuasive. I'm sorry, I told him, but again, I thought it was obvious, and I didn't think he'd tell you. Alex scowls, massaging his ribs. I glare at the cat, wondering if I just made a huge mistake. But what about the triumvirates? I told you first, and then they all suddenly found out somehow. Alex quirks his head. Well, Cassius was discussing with someone else, wasn't he? Virginia. Maybe it was that person? Neferu had said that they hadn't interfered at all in the trials, and Virginia didn't show any indication that she might have sabotaged her own brother. But then again, I have the feeling that she's probably a lot better at acting than anyone else here. I know I can't really trust anyone now, except Amicus, and maybe Neferu. I'd been so confident just moments ago, and now I find myself feeling guilty as I watch the sopping wet cat clutch himself hunched over. I don't trust him to be telling me the truth, not at all. But I also don't trust myself in being so confident that he's lying. So shamefully, I reach out a hand, resting it on his shoulder. He flinches, then glares up at me. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what's happening. Alex carefully moves my hand off his shoulder, but he doesn't seem all that angry. That's fine, just don't do it in such a brutish manner next time. You frightened me. Yeah, and sorry about your ribs too, even if you did it to yourself. I'm sorry, that entire thing was beautiful. It was Looney Tunes level bullshit. It was beautiful. Alex probably hears a smile creeping into my voice at the end of the sentence because he glares at me again. That really hurt, you know. And now I have to go to the city to see a physician. I'll have to take the awful bumpy carriage too since Cassius forbids me from flying. Alexios shakes his head. I rub my arm awkwardly. Why's that? Alexios looks up at me. Ever since his father's ship crashed and the investigation was botched, he's petrified of it. Botched? Yeah, so they don't know how it crashed. Odd thing, isn't it? Yeah. Just when I was having my doubts, I get another flare of suspicion as to why he's telling me something like this, but I brush it aside for now. So, you know about everything that's happened? Vaguely, though I'd rather not be involved. Anyway, I suppose it's not so inconvenient for me that I go. I was meaning to visit Cassius in the hospital today anyway. The cat stands up, bending down with a grimace to pick up his robes. And I am sorry about what happened to your wolf. I hope you're able to figure it out. And with that, the cat walks out of the bathroom, his tail dragging limply behind him. I want to say more to him to figure out exactly what he's up to. I might have been wrong about him, but I also don't feel satisfied with his explanations. I can tell now that we're not exactly friends anymore, even before I caused him to shatter his ribs and boil in the hot tub. I sit on the bench for a while thinking about soaking in the bath. I realize that the last time I did that was with Amicus, and doing so now, alone, would be way too depressing. I get up and leave, hoping that Virginia took my request seriously. Imagining the wolf below me, alone, is too much to think about. So I head back out into the halls, deciding to just go back to Neferu's room and stay there like I'd been told to. A few days pass like this. There's a bizarre calm in the air. The palace is quiet despite the absolute chaos at the top echelon of the empire is in right now. In the meantime, Cassius becomes emperor with surprisingly little fanfare. I watch it on the screens, the young white wolf's right leg and left arm in casts, which is explained several times to have happened in the third trial, as he's cornered by Cato, who is now missing his visor. As he's coronated by Cato, who is now missing his visor. That isn't explained to the viewers at all. I don't feel much as this happens. Realizing how fake all of this is, how it doesn't seem to make anything despite how much I'm told it means. It's all theatrics. What matters most now is the taking of the two of them down, and getting Amicus up and out from that dungeon. Even now, I'm not really thinking about getting home despite the fact that the stretch drive should be returning at any moment now, if it hasn't already. There are bigger things at stake here, the main one being my best friend's life. And that's why on the third day after the fake trial, I find myself eagerly involving myself in a discussion with Neferu as he tells me his plans. Cato is due back at the palace that day, and we both suspect he'll be making a trip to our room. So the most important thing to the wolves is drama, a scene, something memorable. That's all they seem to care about around here. Neferu sniffs dismissively as he sips at his wine, and I find myself starting to see why Amicus might find him so irritating. Not that he's wrong, though, and I usually find myself agreeing with him. So, make a scene that makes Cato and Cassius look bad? Well, most importantly, we need to find or even make up information about them that will irreparably damage their reputation in the public sphere. Like what Cassius did to Amicus during the second trial. Neferu smirks. Even worse than that, Marco. Preferably something that shows disloyalty or insults the pride of the wolves in general. That is something they often can't look past. Didn't Amicus having sex with you show disloyalty or hurt their pride? Neferu waves his paw dismissively in the air. No, it's been established amongst the public that he was simply furthering his goal of an alliance with my species, which was completely in line with his character. As for pride, well, he wasn't the one raising his tail. I sigh. So we need something about Cassius and Cato that's out of their character. Yes, something that shows them to be not who they say they are. The public must distrust them. Neferu strokes his chin. Would be convenient to have all that footage that Virginia was talking about, but considering how secure it might be, that could be impossible. Worth trying to get, though. Yes. I'll have to discuss that further with Virginia. So what should I be doing? Well, it feels good to talk about what can be done to help Amicus. I personally want to do something. Neferu pauses, then smiles at me. Neferu, my duty is to not put you in danger, as I've said. I won't have you. Well, I don't care. I need to help. I'll do whatever I have to do. Neferu raises an eyebrow at me. Oh, yes. Oh, yes? Even if it might risk your own life? Cato is only barely tolerating the protective line that being a Chemian citizen affords you. I would not push him further. Then I'll do things behind the scenes. I don't care. I just want to do something. Neferu sighs deeply. We'll see. Just keep in mind that the most important thing to Amicus is that you stay alive. That's what you can do that will help him the most. I take that in, still not fully convinced that there's nothing I can do. but I'll certainly let you know if I believe there's a way for you to help. As for me, my status leaves me untouchable, unless Cato wants to risk another war, which I guarantee you he does not. I'd imagine he has first-hand experience. Indeed. Neferu, Cato wishes to enter your quarters. I jump, wondering if the walls are thin enough for the old wolf to have heard us. Neferu doesn't seem surprised, though. As we expected. Calm, please tell him to hold for a minute. I'm in the nude. Yes, Neferu. Neferu looks at me. I suppose our mission starts now. I have my own drone recording in the corner there, hopefully to catch the old man saying something incriminating. What I'd like you to do is crouch behind those bushes. Keep hidden and quiet. What? I thought I was supposed to be involved? You will be, but I'd rather he not filter himself because of you. I hesitate for a second, then quickly do as I'm told, even though I do feel bitter at the feeling of being tossed aside once again. Neferu, I will override the security again if you do not. Cato's voice crackles over the speakers, but that's when the jackal opens the door, and for a moment, his voice comes from two places at once. I'm pretty well hidden behind a few trees and bushes. My surroundings dark enough that I'm pretty sure Cato wouldn't be able to see me through the leaves and twigs I'm peeking through. The two males stand awkwardly across from each other before Cato suddenly strides in, forcing the jackal to step aside, though Neferu keeps that smug smile on his face. What a pleasure it is for you to visit me today. As Cato walks in, I get a look at his face for the first time. It had to be done. I saw that, and first thing that came to mind was Prince Zuko. I'd seen that he lacked his visor in the broadcast, but seeing it up close, the stern look I'd always imagined under his now broken machinery is definitely there. His eyes have a milky gray quality to them, heavily scarred. The old wolf stops just in front of the fountain, his ears perked up high. I wonder if he can see anything at all, and Neferu asks just that. How's your sight, your former highness? I see one of those ears twitch before the wolf slowly turns around. Non-existent, young prince. Oh, please, just call me Nef. Where's the alien? Neferu pauses. Alex, or do you mean... You know damn well who I'm referring to, Jackal. Neferu raises his paws defensively, even though Cato can't see. Apologies, Cato. Marco told me he would be in the gardens doing landscaping work. Cato snorts. I didn't hear him out there. It is a rather large garden. A very beautiful one as well. Cato doesn't respond, instead staring about the room. Would you like some wine? Neferu gestures at the bedside table, picking up his own goblet to take a sip. Loudly. I see Cato's ears twitch again before he turns to the jackal. What is your plan with the alien? Neferu frowns. Plan? Do not play games with me. That will be my only warning to you, jackal. Cato's voice is so cold and ominous that even Neferu's grin wavers. But he recovers quickly, taking another loud slurp of wine. Such good wine. One of the few superior products your people produce. Now, as for Marco, I'm simply fulfilling a promise to Amicus. I see. That wasn't so hard to tell me then, was it? Speaking of, quite astonishing that he was so easily beaten by Cassius of all people. Quite. I wonder how he was able to accomplish such a feat. It was broadcast. You would have been able to see it. Well, I don't watch Adastran broadcasts. Too much melodrama and propaganda for my tastes. Pugnu is a combination of skill and luck, and it's not always the strongest that wins. Of course, though I have to wonder, might any of that luck have been, well, manufactured? Cato is silent for a moment. Cato being silent is when you know that something is very wrong. Are you implying something, Jackal? Oh no, I'm simply curious. I came to study the politics and working of the Empire while also trying to improve relations between our species. I feel knowing all the facts of woven politics is important. Cato sneers. There's a fine line between studying and spying here. Neferu chuckles. Well, what I do know is that you wolves often go about things in a theatrical fashion. It's sometimes hard to tell what's real or not. I assume the fight to be, well, somewhat staged. Cato chuckles, and immediately I know that Neferu is making a lot of mistakes here. I'm not sure what his plan is. Maybe he thought Cato would be more friendly with him, that he could lull the wolf into a false sense of security somehow. Maybe he's just trying to feel the old man out. I also get the feeling that he shouldn't have had all that wine before doing this. His suave, carefree attitude works on most, either to charm or to annoy, but Cato is not someone I feel like it would work particularly well on. Either way, it's clear Cato knows exactly what's happening. I know Chemians pride themselves on their own intelligence, but I have to wonder why, considering your extreme stupidity. Oh? Neferu casually sloshes his wine about in his goblet. Your arrogance amazes me, young one. I know you were fortunate enough to have been birthed after the war, but it's as if you were never taught the history between our peoples. I've spent countless hours studying this history, Cato, and that's mostly why I'm here. Mostly. Seems the rest of the reason is to fuck with the delicate balance our empire is currently in. Certainly not. I am merely an observer. I want to tell Neferu to shut up, or just tell Cato to go look for me out in the gardens, or something. I can see the hackles on Cato's shoulders rising, and I can only hope that the jackal was right about being untouchable. I know I offered you to stay in this palace as long as you pleased, and I never withdraw an offer without good reason. But have you thought about moving out to the city? There are many more accommodations out there. Oh, no thank you. I much prefer it here. Everyone is so interesting. It's just like a Chemia to take full advantage of a wolf's tolerance. Neferu quirks an eyebrow. Tolerance? Not a word I often associate with a wolf. I can tell that Neferu is losing his cool as well. Our tolerance for your arrogance was unprecedented. Neferu seems confused for a moment. Oh, are you referring to the war? I'm sorry, we're quite a bit more blunt where I'm from, so I did not realize what you were getting at. Neferu smirks. For a moment, I thought you were coming on to me much like Amicus did. Definitely too much to drink, but this jackal is a lot crazier than I thought he was. You wolves tend to be aggressive like... Cato becomes a blur, closing the 5-foot distance between the two of them in less than a second. The next thing you know, Cato has the jackal up against one of the pillars, slamming Neferu so hard against it that I see the plaster crack and fall away. Neferu gasps loudly, kicking out at Cato a few times as he struggles with the old wolf's thick arms. Get off! Neferu kicks out again, this time at Cato's groin. If the old wolf felt anything, he doesn't show it, instead holding Neferu tightly in place while he snarls in his face. Speaking of tolerance, I've tolerated your arrogance for far too long, just because you are the pharaoh's son. The second son, and of a ruler who has so little power over his kingdom in the first place. I shouldn't be surprised. Cato pulls Neferu forward, then slams him back against the pillar again. causing more plaster to fall and the jackal's teeth to clack together loud enough that I can hear it. You're all the fucking same, every single one of you, but somehow you're the worst I've yet to meet. Again, Cato slams Neferu against the pillar, and I start to stand up, wishing I had a Nervo. Neferu growls, trying another kick. Is this the next generation of Chemian we must deal with? I know you weren't alive for the war, but it seems another one is inevitable if you're an example of what's to come. Neferu tries to speak, but lets out a choked cough. Cato loosens his grasp, and Neferu gasps a few times. You know, Amicus was a bit less rough, but if you wanted to put your paws on me, you only had to... This time, Cato almost lifts the jackal off his feet, cutting Neferu off with a horrible gag, like he's throwing up. I must say, you have a funny way of going about building an alliance. It's as if you thought tail-raising would get you whatever you wanted. Now Neferu really starts to struggle, kicking around aimlessly, throwing his head left and right, sending drool flinging from his muzzle. Cato doesn't relent, and I know this is my cue to do something. It's been a while since I've killed a jackal. My paws have been itching to do it again. Maybe you'll be my next? I don't know what to do exactly. I have no weapon, but I wonder if I can at least distract the wolf long enough for Neferu to get away, to breathe again. So I run out of my hiding spot, rustling with branches and leaves as I do. Cato is so focused on what he's doing to Neferu that he doesn't seem to even hear me. As I run at him, I can see the wolf grinning maniacally into Neferu's face, like this really is something he's been wanting to do for a very long time. He finally seems to hear me at the last second, turning his head in my direction before I lower my shoulder to try and tackle him off of Neferu. It's like hitting a brick wall covered in fur. I make contact with the old man's side, and for a moment I get a whiff of musk and perfume before I'm sent right back down on my ass. I wonder for a moment if I've dislocated my shoulder, looking up in a daze at what result my attack might have had, if any. To my relief, I see Neferu on his paws and knees, gagging and coughing, drool stringing from his muzzle. Cato is standing slightly to the side, looking in my direction, over my head, but he clearly knows where I am. He focuses on me for a moment, though, then he turns his head in the direction of the coughing jackal, Neferu crawling away at this point. Cato makes his way towards him before drawing back a foot. I can only reach out, not having enough time to ask Cato to stop before the wolf kicks the jackal between the legs. He does it so hard I see Neferu's knees skip off the ground for a moment before he pitches face first into the marble, on his knees, and clutching himself as he lets out a howl of agony. I cringe, thinking of the time I kicked Amicus and how much harder Cato must have kicked Neferu. I start to move towards them again in case Cato thinks of doing anything else, but the old wolf simply stands there, breathing heavily, head tilted down as he listens to Neferu moan. For the kicks you gave me earlier, I should put your whoring out of commission for a few days, no? Neferu is curled up on his knees at this point, paws tucked into himself. It's at this point I see a gush of red liquid overflow from his muzzle, and for one horrific moment I wonder if Cato somehow had kicked him so hard that he ruptured his organs or something. But no, it's the wine, and it spills across the marble. Cato wrinkles his nose at the retching sounds before carefully stepping around the jackal. As I said, I won't withdraw my offer for you to stay, but there will be many apartments open in this city. Just know that you will not be able to take your new citizen with you. Otherwise, I'd like to try this discussion again in the future if you're willing to be more cooperative. With that, the old wolf stalks out of the bedroom. At the same time, two white drones float in, hovering over Neferu. One lowers itself to the ground to begin cleaning up the mess, while the other holds out what looks like a couple capsules on a plate, which balances itself on a metal appendage. Neferu, you seem to have vomited. Would you like anti-nausea medication? I stumble over to the jackal to kneel at his side, and to try and help in any way that I can. He simply keeps his eyes screwed shut, holding up a paw before returning it to his sore spot. Awkwardly, I rub at his shoulder, trying to ignore the smell as the drone does its work of cleaning up the puke. A few minutes later, I manage to help the jackal to the bed, his breath ragged the entire way. It's strange seeing him like this, usually so confident and in control. I never expected anyone to do anything like this to him, but I guess if someone was going to, it was Cato. Are you sure you're okay? I ask for what's probably the third time as I sit next to him, and Neferu manages a smile despite the clear pain he's in. No, but I'll have to go to a physician to be sure, all the way in the city since Cato saw fit to imprison the palace doctor. Do you need, ice or something? I don't know, he hit you so fucking hard. I'll manage, I just miscalculated. I'll know how to handle him in the future. I frown, not really feeling like that's the case. As I'm trying to help him, though, Calm's voice comes over the intercom again. Virginia requests access to your room, Neferu. Neferu suddenly straightens up, moving his paws from his crotch to his thighs. Granted. She nods at the two of us before wrinkling her nose. Ugh, smells like rancid wine in here. Indeed, what did you need, Virginia? To my surprise, Virginia turns to me. Instead of the hostile expression she'd been wearing the last time we'd encountered each other, it's much kinder to my relief. Marco, I had a discussion with Cassius about seeing Amicus. He seems accepting of the idea, under one condition. There's a pause. What? Well, he wishes to speak with you in private. Private? Neferu immediately speaks up next to me. That is not wise, Marco. We should negotiate with him to allow me to be there. Virginia laughs. You really think Cassius would allow Kemian in on a private conversation? Virginia pauses, eyeing up the jackal, Neferu currently still hunched up despite his attempts to keep straight. What happened to you? Nothing of note. I raise an eyebrow, which Virginia sees. Marco, what happened? Well, I pause, watching as Neferu raises his own eyebrow, but makes no attempt to stop me. Well, Neferu pissed off Cato, and Cato hurt him. What? I was attempting to pry information from the old man about the staged trial. I was unsuccessful. Why did you even think that you could be successful? Cato knows exactly what we're up to, no doubt. This is so unlike you. It jeopardizes everything, Neferu. Virginia seems completely bewildered, and now that I think about it, I have to agree. What was Neferu thinking? But then Virginia narrows her eyes as she sees the jackal grinning, now openly covering his crotch. What? Well, I may not have achieved exactly what I wanted, but I attained something just as valuable. Neferu glances at the corner of the room where his drone is. You recorded it all? Yes, and an attack on Neferu's son will not look very nice on the Kemian news channels, will it? Neferu. A dark tone enters the wolf's voice. That risks war. The jackal rolls his eyes, adjusting himself rather lewdly. I would never actually send it, but Cato does not know that. It's simply convenient blackmail material if things don't go as planned. Virginia squeezes the bridge of her snout, closing her eyes. You don't know Cato very well, do you? And neither do I. Sometimes I believe he wants another war. Did he hit you? Virginia's eyes drift lower. Yes. Anyway, he's no longer the Emperor. It's Cassius I'd use it against. You know Cato is his advisor. But still not the Emperor. I hope your brother has large enough stones. Again, the jackal adjusts himself to do his job and not listen to a warmongering advisor. One would hope. Virginia continues to look unconvinced. I shift around impatiently next to Neferu. So did you want to see me now? Virginia turns to me, again looking as if she'd forgotten that I was there. That seemed to be the case. Neferu sighs loudly. At least try to convince him to allow you to be present, Virginia. I don't want Marco to be left alone with him. There is little to worry about. Cass is not Cato, but I can try. Ugh. Virginia looks to me. Ready, Marco? I quickly get up, following the wolf to the door. I look back at Neferu, the jackal looking uncharacteristically disheveled as he's still hunched up around his junk. He gives me a meaningful look, probably meant to tell me to be careful, so I give him a quick nod before following the wolf out the door. We walk in silence, the only sound being the birds and the swishing of our robes as we make our way through the halls. I'm not sure exactly where we're going, but after a while I realize it must be the throne room. I stare at the back of the she-wolf's head, contemplating a few things. Virginia is the only person I know the least about in this palace, which probably means she's doing the best job at playing this little game. I want to ask her a lot of things, but I'm worried about overstepping boundaries, something that seems rather easy to do with her. As we get closer to the door, I can't help myself from asking at least one question. So, do you care that Amicus is in the dungeons? Like, you want to get him out, not just because you want to be his advisor, right? Immediately, I see the wolf's ears flick back, hopefully mild annoyance and not extreme anger. Her voice is steady when she answers me, though. First of all, it's not any of your business what my motivations are, Marco. Virginia doesn't follow that up immediately, so we're left in an awkward silence as we walk the last 10 feet to the throne room door. She pauses there and finally looks at me, her eyes narrowed. But Amicus is my brother, and for that alone, I love him. And though he is a complete dullard, he's one of the few genuinely kind people to me in this. He's one of the few to be genuinely kind to me in this palace. He is a good wolf. Virginia turns away, raising a paw to hover over the black panel. but you would already know that. With that, she presses the panel and the doors slide open. I immediately spot Cassius at the other end of the cavernous room, looking a bit small and insignificant on the extravagant throne. Probably not the best impression for the Emperor of Adastra to make. As I'm thinking this, we begin to make our way toward him. A drone hovers in front of the white wolf, holding up a screen under his face. He's not looking at it now, though, instead narrowing his eyes at the two of us as Virginia escorts me to the base of the steps. Here he is, brother. Cassius shifts around in his seat, and for a moment, I think I catch some sort of booster seat under his rear. Thank you, Virginia. You can leave us be now. Virginia hesitates, clasping her paws together in front of herself. Brother, I would feel more comfortable if I were allowed to stay. I'd rather not leave you alone with an unprofiled alien. Cassius snorts, waving his paw dismissively. I've interacted with it many times before. I will be fine. If not, then the drones will take care of him. Cassius makes eye contact with me as he says that last part, clearly meaning for me to take it as a warning, or a threat. Virginia hesitates again, and Cassius' eyes drifts down toward her in question. That's when the she-wolf bows deeply before turning away. As she passes me, she gives me her own look, not unlike Neferu's. Be careful. I continue to face Cassius as I listen to Virginia's soft footsteps recede behind me. Then I hear the door open and close. I keep my eyes low on Cassius's feet, but I can tell he's looking directly at me. The silence drags on. I wonder if the white wolf is using Cato's technique of using silence to intimidate. Finally, though, he clears his throat loudly, almost making me jump. First, I want to say that you may speak freely here. I only want the truth. I look up at him and see that he's not looking at me anymore. Instead, it's to the side, as if he's lost in thought. I'm confused as to how all of this could have happened. So know that if you speak the truth, you will be free from any consequences. Consequences? He's making it sound as if I've committed some sort of crime or conspiracy. I mean, maybe I've been part of some, but it's definitely not my fault. What do you want to know? Cassius's eyes flick to mine then, and I see a mild surprise there. He's still probably not used to an alien like me speaking directly to him in full sentences. He pauses again before resting his chin on a paw, clearly trying to look casual. Who exactly are you? I raise an eyebrow. Marco, you already know this. I know your name, but I want to know more beyond that. What is it that you're doing here? How did my brother find you? Immediately, our conversation reaches a point where I find myself unsure of what to say. How much can I say to him? Obviously, I can't trust him at all. I know that. But I also know that he's in complete control over what happens to Amicus, and there may be a few things I have to give up to keep my wolf safe. So, I square my shoulders and look Cassius in the eye. I want to know that Amicus is okay first, and I want to see him. Immediately, Cassius's demeanor changes from sour suspicion to sour fury. Excuse me, you aren't the one to make demands here. I'm the Emperor, and you will answer my questions. I get the vague sensation of my balls drawing up to my stomach as I realize how dangerous all of this is. My thoughts go to that physician, Felix, being sent to the dungeons without a second thought. But I know I have protections, and I have to trust them now if I'm going to make any sort of deal with Cassius. Yeah, but you're not my Emperor. I answer to the Pharaoh. I'm spitballing, but it seems to be working as Cassius gives Cassius pause. After a moment, it seems like he's able to collect himself. So I've heard, but remind yourself that you are on Adastra, therefore you are to abide by our laws and customs, and lying to the Emperor is punishable by death. And again, that feeling in my stomach. But I have to remind myself, rules don't matter here. It's all about playing their game. I know that Cassius would never have me executed or imprisoned while Neferu was here. That would be far too risky for the Empire as a whole. I can't be intimidated by empty threats, even if they threaten my life. If I want to help Amicus, I have to push the limits, at least within reason. I also remind myself that I'm not completely untouchable, as Neferu's balls can attest to. I just want to see my former master. If you can guarantee me that, then I'll tell you what happened. Another long pause as Cassius just glares at me, then he lets out a little huff. Fine. It's almost funny how he's still acting like a child despite now being the Emperor of Adastra. So I take a deep breath. I consider lying, of course, but what Amicus did was an honest mistake, at least in my opinion. Lying will probably only make things worse when the truth should be so understandable. So I started at the beginning, how Amicus came upon the records of my people in the archives, how he rushed to my planet to find a willing pet, how everything suddenly went south when he found out far too late that we were not part of the Galaxias, and finally how he tried to keep it all a secret to keep the Empire safe. I emphasize the keeping the Empire safe part, even if it wasn't originally at the top of my priorities, and telling the truth, even if I'm stretching it a bit. Cassius listens to all of this with various reactions: contempt, surprise, anger, then contemplation. I'm struck by the contrast between him and Cato. While Cato keeps his emotions in check, aside from the occasional explosions of rage, Cassius wears it all on his sleeve. Not that different from Amicus in that way, even if his personality is. When Cassius doesn't say anything, I sigh. It was an honest mistake. You've got to understand that. I already know that it was a mistake. Even Amicus would not make first contact on purpose. I just wondered what sort of stupidity caused it. He had no reason to think we were uncontacted. We were recorded in the library or whatever. Cassius suddenly shifts on his throne. What are you? Species and planet name. His last sentence has the inflection of an expectant demand. Now I'm left to stand in silence. No fucking way am I telling this wolf rat where I'm from. Cassius must see this face immediately, because his fur once again puffs out in anger. Do you want to see Amicus or not? I need to know this to verify that what you are saying is truthful. Is that really why? I know what you wolves do to other aliens. Why would I give away my people like that? Cassius puffs himself up even bigger, and I wonder if he's going to start screaming at me. Then he suddenly just deflates. The problem here is first contact, yes? So why would I go out to find and do whatever you think it is I do to your people? I have no interest in furthering the problem. I simply want to know. But why do you care? Cassius snaps his eyes back to mine. Believe it or not, Marco, I am trying to help Amicus. Do you not know the consequence of such a crime? He could be executed for this. Now my heart does a backflip. What? Why? Because it is a sacred rule created by the parents. Disobeying them risks our entire empire to abandonment. But you're the Emperor. If you want him kept alive, can't you just do that? I feel myself starting to panic a little. The thought that maybe Amicus would be kept in the dungeons for a while. I thought that Amicus would be kept in the dungeons for a while, but never thought that he could be at risk of being executed. If it were only I that knew of this, maybe. But there are others that know of his crime, and they expect me to terminate all evidence of the first contact. Cassius stares at me, and I realize that part of the evidence is, of course, me. Are you talking about Cato? He's just your advisor, right? You can ignore him. This time Cassius doesn't respond, looking away again. If I can make the case that this was a truly honest mistake, then maybe I have a chance at convincing these others. Better yet, convince them that this wasn't first contact at all. Are you even sure your people are completely unaware of the Galaxias? I start to say that I am pretty sure, but he's looking at me in a strange way. Our governments are pretty secretive. They might know something. So it's possible that crime wasn't committed at all. Simply a misunderstanding, and knowing where you came from can help us determine that. I'm a bit caught off guard by all of this. I guess I'd expected Cassius to let Amicus rot in the dungeons while he enjoyed his emperorship. But I'm reminded of what Virginia had said earlier, that although they might stab each other in the back, they're still siblings. Didn't you once say that you don't care about the parents? Wouldn't it be part of your plan for them to abandon the Empire? Cassius sighs deeply. I've said many things, but I found that once you become emperor, your perspective on things change. Like how much you need the parents. Cassius glares at me, so I just go on. How would they find out anyway? Amicus said something about monitors. Obviously, we can just talk about it in the open without anything happening. I look around as if expecting a monitor to poke its head out from behind one of the pillars. I don't know. But what I do know is that the fewer who know, the better. What even is a monitor? Cassius shrugs. Again, I don't know. None have appeared in living memory. But that does not mean we should not be cautious. The risk is far too great. I really don't understand this. I feel like if the parents are as powerful and all-knowing as these aliens make them out to be, then they probably already know I'm here. Or I can bring this up to Cassius, though. So what are you and where are you from? I think. He's right that it wouldn't make sense for the wolves to go after Earth. It is technically the last thing that the Empire would want, especially with Cassius as Emperor considering his isolationist views. But most importantly, it could help Amicus. I take a deep breath. And if I tell you to let me see Amicus? Yes. I don't like only being able to go on his word, but for some reason I feel like he's being sincere. I'm a human, from the planet Earth. Human Earth. Cassius mumbles the words, the lingua cutting off and allowing me to hear the wolf's accented voice unfiltered. He pulls the floating drone at his side toward himself, tapping at the screen a few times, probably making notes. It feels incredibly wrong at that moment, like I've betrayed all humans somehow, but again, I can't see why it would put Earth in any danger. On top of that, I'm also counting on Amicus becoming Emperor eventually, and I know he'd never do anything to my planet. I'm playing the game. Cassius stares at the screen a while, and I shift around on my feet. So, I can go see him now? He snaps his gaze up to mine. Yes, now is best. Cato should not be back for a few more hours, but I can only give you 20 minutes, just to be safe. Cato, what about him? What do you mean, what about him? I want to ask Cassius why it sounds like Cato is in charge and not he himself, but I know not to press those buttons right now. Never mind, so can I see him regularly? Cassius sighs loudly again, standing up. If it's not often and you come to me first, and if Cato's away. Yep, definitely not fully in charge. Cato's clearly got some control over Cassius. Either way, I'm too happy at the thought of being able to see Amicus semi-regularly to care at the moment. Anyway, call him escort marker to the dungeons to visit Amicus for 20 minutes. That's when I remember I have other questions. Wait, do you have contact with the parents now? Cassius looks at me strangely. Yes, we made contact after I became Emperor. It was expected. Oh, that's good. Indeed. Though we had to implement the traditional technique. It's a bit archaic, but highly effective. Oh, so do you have the stretch drive again? Cassius looks at me suspiciously. Hey, I need to get home eventually, and you'd be getting rid of the problem if you got me there. Well, no, not yet, but I've only spoken with them a few times. I'll be meditating on that today. I'll keep you updated when we discuss things in the future. You want to talk to me again? Yes. Cassius then stalks off while a drone circles around me, telling me to follow it. Think about apologizing then for the whole Nervo incident, but then I realize if he's not going to mention it, then maybe I shouldn't either. I realize then how strange the whole exchange has been. Cassius had seemed like a whole different person, but I guess now he thinks of me more as an equal. At least in terms of intelligence. It almost makes him almost tolerable. I'm led to a part of the palace that I've never been to before. We go through a small door into a small room that has a small pit in it. A ladder leads down into this pit, a pit that I can only imagine leads to the dungeons. The hole is dark, and as I pause, I can feel the drone hovering behind me. Please proceed down the ladder, Marco. I get a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, and I wonder for a moment if this is some sort of trap. I mean, of course it feels like a trap. I have a creepy AI nudging me toward a pit of darkness all set up by Cassius. Despite the feeling, I force myself downward, shakily lowering myself to the ladder, several times feeling as if I'm going to slip and fall. I have no idea how deep this thing goes, but I start to think it might be a significant drop. My foot hits solid ground. To my surprise, I get exactly what I'd been expecting. It looks like, well, a straight-up dungeon. Dim yellow lighting is cast across the stone walls and floor, the air musty and stale, the hall's quiet. The air is cold and fleetingly, I'm glad that Amicus has at least that. And as I'm thinking this, I hear movement up ahead. Shuffling footsteps and shadows being cast on the walls of the hallway in front of me. Take a few steps forward, but then calm buzzes behind me. Remain close to the ladder, please. I stop and wait impatiently, wondering if what's up ahead is indeed Amicus. Again, I get that creepy feeling that I've been betrayed somehow. That what's up ahead is some sort of monster Cassius decided to feed me to. Instead, though, what turns the corner is Amicus. For a moment, my wolf stands there at the other end of the hall, staring at me. Then, before I know it, he's running at me. I start to move forward, but calm tells me to stay put once again, more firmly this time. So I force myself to wait, watching as my wolf sprints at me. As he gets closer, I open my arms, and the next thing I know, I'm caught up in a mass of fur, warmth, and tears. Marco! I'm spun around in a circle, my face pressed hard against the wolf's neck before I'm set down again. Amicus doesn't let me go, though, clutching me tightly to his body. He'd sounded happy at first, but now I feel him gasp and shake. Amicus? I pull back as much as he'll let me so I can see his face. I see then that he's crying, not even trying to hide it as he looks down at me with reddened eyes. He looks okay for the most part. His fur is a bit disheveled, and maybe he's a little thinner, but otherwise he looks healthy. The most notable thing is actually a smell, a hint of musk without any scent of lavender. Amicus is looking at me just as closely, and one of his paws comes up to brush a thumb pad across my cheek. It's then that I realize that I'm crying too. So I press my face against his chest again, and we stay like that for a while. After about 10 minutes, our breathing is under control and the wolf's grip on me loosens, though he doesn't let go. Finally, Amicus is the first to speak. Marco, I am so sorry. What are you still doing here? You're a Chemian. You need to go to Neferu and tell him that you want to be taken home. Or at least to Chemia. His voice breaks. You need to get off of Adastra. It is not safe for you here. At the very least, have Virginia help smuggle you from the palace. You could... I reach up a hand and press it against his muzzle, both to stop him from telling me to do things I won't be doing, and also because I feel like Calm is recording this, even if Cassius doesn't mean to monitor us. Amicus pauses in surprise as I clamp his muzzle shut. Then I see his eyes well up again as he reaches up to cup my hand and press his face into it, closing his eyes. I'm fine. I'm here to help you. I choose my words carefully. I'm going to help you, and I'm not leaving until I do. Marco, I'm not leaving. Please. This time I bring my other hand up to his mouth. I'm safe. Neferu is keeping me safe. Nothing can be done to me. I'm a Chemian now. 10 minutes remaining, Marco. Already? Suddenly I'm pressed up against the wolf's cheek again as Amicus hugs me tightly. I'm such a damn fool. Never think of others. I ruined your life, and for what? No. I press back again. I know that I can leave with Neferu's help, but I'm choosing not to. Amicus opens his mouth to say more, but I cut in before he can. I want to be here, and I'm about to say take down Cato, but I cut myself off. Help you. Even Cassius wants to. I'm going to get you out of here no matter what. More tears start to well up, so I just hug him and we stay like that for a while. I wish I'd thought of things to say. I'm sure there are things I could have brought up that might have helped me, or Amicus, but my mind is blank as all I want to do is hold my wolf. Please, just don't involve yourself too much. Keep yourself safe. Being a Chemian doesn't guarantee all that if you meddle. I can hear Amicus trying to choose his own words carefully. Yeah, Cato's already shown me that. Amicus jerks back, looking at me. Did he do something to you? Not me, Neferu. What happened? Well, Neferu was kind of being forward, and he got kicked in the nuts. What? Yeah. But he's the Pharaoh's son. Yeah. So I know that I need to be especially careful. The look of shock on Amicus's face slowly changes to one of slight amusement. Well, that's something I can't imagine. It was definitely something. I'm glad to see Amicus smiling at least a little. 1 minute. I feel a flash of annoyance at the AI before Amicus is hugging me tightly again. I'm going to be careful. I'm going to help everyone figure out how best to clear your name. I love you. So much. I love you too. Time limit has been reached. Please proceed to the ladder, Marco. Please proceed to your cell, Amicus. Amicus' embrace doesn't loosen, and instead, he lowers his head to kiss me. I kiss back. Please untangle your limbs and oral cavities and proceed to your respective directives. Oh, shit. Amicus huffs in annoyance before drawing back. And I'll be back. I just need to ask Cassius for the right times. Alright, there's much more I want to say to you, so please, return soon if you possibly can. Of course, as soon as I can. Amicus gives me a small smile, and though I see tears in his eyes, they don't overflow this time. The journey back to Neferu's room is when it all hits me at once, and I have to constantly wipe my eyes in case someone like Alex, Neferu, or Cato comes around the corner and sees me. I already desperately miss Amicus, and now that I've just left him, I'm reminded of how alone I feel now that he's not always by my side. Next time I visit, I'll bring a bunch of stuff to say, do, and eat. I can't imagine the dungeon food is any good. Maybe we can find more privacy next time, and we'll be allowed to plan things out. Maybe pass information on to him somehow. Thought of this makes me feel a little bit better, and my eyes are mostly dry as I near the Jackal's room. It's at that moment that I get a strange whiff of something in the air. Like, mothballs? That's all that comes to mind. It's something that I've never smelled in the palace before, so I find myself pausing in the hallway, looking around. Nothing seems out of place. It's quiet and bright, as it usually is, but that's when I realize where I am. There's a door to my left, and I immediately know that's the meditation room. I remember then that Cassius mentioned that he wanted to meditate, to talk to the parents. Is he in there doing that right now? And is that smell part of it? I'm reminded of the night I first met Amicus, that it smells something like burning rubber in the air. This isn't that, but I have to wonder if maybe the parents emit this odd smell when they arrive. I stand there for a while, listening. I don't hear anything, but that smell continues, and I know now that it's definitely coming from that room. My eyes are squarely locked on the black panel. I want to open it, but I know I can't. If Cassius really is in the middle of talking to the parents, I could ruin everything. So I start to turn away, deciding that I'll ask Neferu what might be going on in there. But as I do, the door opens and a cloud of billowing white smoke comes out. I gasp and jump back, seeing a figure standing in the doorway. It's Cassius, and he's hacking and coughing, gasping for breath. I can see that he's shaking too, and I'm about to back away when he locks eyes on me. His eyes are wide bloodshot, and I can see what looks like vomit on his chest. His muzzle hangs open as if trying to talk to me. He's hyperventilating though, and that's finally when I step forward. Cassius, are you okay? I have to walk into the cloud to get to him, and I'm enveloped in that chemical smell, immediately coughing out the acrid smoke. Help me. Cassius reaches out to me, and I catch his paw. Immediately, he slumps against me, and I stumble under his significant weight. Nowhere near that of Amicus, but he is a wolf after all. What happened? I try to peer into the room, but it's so smoky. I see what looks like a little fire in the middle, though, a pot burning something inside. Did Cassius hotbox himself with something? Parents, demons. I don't know what to do. At first, I start to try and pull Cassius along toward Neferu's room, but I immediately switch course, deciding that I definitely won't make it. Amicus's room is closer. I just hope I can still get in there. I can't. Cassius whines and then suddenly lets out a retch. I try to ignore it, kind of hoping that someone else will come around the corner to help me. Even if it's Cato. As I'm thinking this, I realize that the hall seems to stretch further and further ahead of me. The lights take on an odd quality, strangely sharp and bright. And just like that, I instantly fall into what feels like a dream. God damn it, what were you smoking? Parents! Cassius squeaks. I'm angry. Not just because this dumb wolf got me high on who knows what, but because I'm realizing that this is what Cassius was referring to when he said the traditional technique of contacting the parents had worked. All he was doing was getting high on some DMT shit. Is this how it's always been? Are the wolves, all the aliens, just getting their crazy parent ideas from some drug? The hall continues to extend ahead of me, and suddenly I feel like I'm looping in time, like time doesn't matter at all anymore. I can see why Cassius is panicking. I'm starting to myself. After what seems like an eternity, I manage to find Amicus's door. Shakily, I reach out and press the panel, the door sliding open. I practically throw Cassius onto the bed. He seems to have stopped blubbering at this point. I collapse onto the sofa, my anger at the wolves and so-called parents dissipating from my mind as the high increases. I raise my hands in front of my face and immediately regret it as they start to stretch and bend. Yo. Is this what Carl experiences? Like Carl from Echo? Is this what he experiences? Carl contacted the parents. Quickly, I jerk them back to my chest, hugging myself, trying to keep my breathing under control. It feels like I'm sinking into a crater, like the ceiling is raising above me, and that time won't start moving again. I gasp and clutch at the cushions, shutting my eyes, trying to calm myself down. You seem to be worried about something. Want a stress tablet to help you out? That voice sounds kinda like calm, kinda not. They will help you chill. What? My confusion over Calm's voice melts away as mercifully darkness takes me. I'm relieved to find myself back up in space. I float, content, calm, happy, even though I sense someone is watching me. Just behind me. Behind me. There is no behind me because I don't have a body anymore. Instead, the feeling creeps just outside my awareness. Okay, I know I said this before, but something about, like, is this Carl? Is this what Carl does? Is this, like, the smoke version of one of Carl's edibles that just, like, shoots you to space? Whenever I try to focus on it, it slips away. So instead, I just let it go, floating in space, feeling almost nothing. And feeling nothing right now, after everything, feels good. But after a moment, I start to get a vague, far-off feelings. Not my own feelings, but the feelings of others. And I pick them up like distant whispers. We've interfered far too much already. Nothing goes to plan with the wolves. It must be done. Yeah. I'm only half listening, coasting on the waves of soothing, empty space. If this is how the drug makes you feel, I'm pretty into it. The more we interfere, the harder it will be to predict anything. There is no other choice. The voice feelings to cease at that point, and I continue to ripple on the waves of the universe. That's when I notice something appearing in the center of my infinite space. Father apologies. Father apologies. Father apologies. Right? Brian is selling that strong shit. I've seen this before, I think. Dreams that had fled my mind the moment I'd woken up suddenly come flooding back. I focus on this being, this creature that's been following me since I was abducted. It's Brian. He looms there, staring at me, even though I'm everywhere at once. The silence goes on for a while, or maybe not. I still don't have any sense of time. That is until the creature speaks. Marco. The voice is deep and masculine, rumbling through my being. I wait a moment, then try to acknowledge him, made difficult by the fact that I don't have a mouth to speak with. If you wish to communicate, then do so. I can hear you. What? I try to think the word at him, but it's slow and clumsy in my mind, and I just wish that I could talk. There's a rumbling of amusement through the air. If you desire a body, simply will it to be. The loss of self is a disturbing feeling for you creatures, I know. What he's saying doesn't make all that much sense, but I try anyway, and just like that, I feel my being start to pull together. I start to materialize right in front of the creature, and I see my hands in front of myself again. When I look down, I see my body, naked. As soon as I see that, I feel a shock of embarrassment, and my robe suddenly appears on my body. I still don't feel right, like I'm still not in this body that I see. Still, it does feel better, and I'm able to open my mouth. What is this? My mouth feels strange and rubbery. At the same time, it feels like cotton is coating the inside. And for the first time, the creature seems unsure of what he should say. Well, it's a bit complicated to explain, but it's simply a space where you and I might be able to communicate peacefully. That's not really an answer. No, but if I were to explain it in depth, it would waste the small amount of time we have together and confuse you even further. I try to stay focused, wanting to know as much about this guy as I can before the drug wears off. You're a parent? That rumbling laughter tickles at the edge of my existence again. No, definitely not. I'm a monitor. Monitor. Icy fear trickles down my imagined spine as I realize what this all might mean. You're not gonna lie, but like, the first time I played this game and I saw monitor, like, Not gonna lie. This is what came to mind. Let me, like, get a hold of this. Na, 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 na. I have way too much shit in my TikTok folder. Hang on, let me, like, bring it in here. Oh god. Okay, we're just going to, like, keep this guy on the monitor face. Okay, I'm actually going to edit it a bit. So, like, give me a bit. Yeah, that seems to be enough, so I'll just, like, do that. Icy fear trickles down my imagined spine as I realize what this all might mean. The monitor quickly holds up a paw. No, don't worry. You're not in trouble. I watch him cautiously as if he's only lulling me into a false sense of security before annihilating me on the spot. Again, that feeling of amusement. No, that would be impossible to do here. I try to keep my thoughts focused. What about Amicus? Is he in trouble? No, he only did what we had planned for him to do. Planned? There's a pause as if the monitor is gathering his thoughts. No, I'm simply receiving instructions. From the parents. I stare at him. They're talking to you? Yes, about you and what I can and cannot tell you. Why don't they just talk to me then? Because they cannot. Direct communication is impossible. Then how specifically designed to be a bridge between your, let's say, dimension and theirs? I don't really know what to think about that, but I get the feeling that I shouldn't be distracted by these things right now. That would be wise. So what do you mean planned? The parents set Amicus up somehow? Your abduction and introduction to the Wolven Empire was meant to happen. Why? Another slight pause. The wolves could single-handedly undo the Galaxias, but you can change that. I frown, feeling some anxiety slip through the drug-induced calm. What? How? The wolves are a stubborn sibling, possibly a mistake made at the very beginning, but the parents can still see the correct path and destination. Can they see the future or something? In a way, yes, their minds exist at many times at once. I'm starting to become lost, and suddenly I begin to feel like a primitive life form, incapable of understanding this ancient alien monolith before me. Do not feel that way. You yourself may not understand, but your species as a whole is more than capable. My mind automatically thinks back to how we were abandoned by the wolves, by maybe even the jackals too. You were abandoned by all the siblings. For a single moment, multiple images of several different creatures come across my mind. A bear, a wolf, a jackal, a lion, a ram. Hold up. Wait, you got a wolf. Can I, like, pull up a file explorer window and just drag files onto here? Because if I can, that'd be awesome. Holy shit, I can. A bear. A Carl. I mean, a ram. We got all the good stuff. What's that face all of a sudden? He's not so much a daddy with that. With that face all of a sudden, he's not so much a daddy. Okay, nah, fuck, no, I don't want to quit. Okay, let me, get that shit. Fuck, everything's still working? Yep. Yep. Okay, we got the face back. They're all recognizable, and what they were is recognizable too, reminding me of several different cultures on Earth. The images finally stop on a tiger in a flowing dress with intricate designs and patterns, and what looks like a sari dress draped over her shoulder. As the images fade from my mind, somehow know exactly that it's Mira. Yes, we reined in the wolves once before with the help of the Hindos, but it lasted for a far shorter period of time than we'd foreseen. That's why we've turned to you, to play her ancient role. But we're not part of the Galaxias. Everyone failed at uplifting us, so isn't something wrong with us? Another pause. In a way, yes, but after the attempts, all of the parents realized that humans would factor into the Galaxias later. Now. Aren't the parents competing with each other? This time, I only get silence in response. Wonder if he's just been told that he can't tell me that. So what am I supposed to do? What do you want with me? The answer this time is immediate. Restore Amicus to his rightful place on the throne. Oh wait, but isn't there any other explanation? And how do I do that? Silence. Why me? More silence. I blow out air in frustration, or try to since nothing comes out. Why can't you just tell me what to do? You brought me here, didn't you? Just tell me. Nothing. I'm about to just give up, wait out the trip when the monitor begins speaking again. Interference often leads to destabilization of the events that should follow. The Galaxias must develop and learn in its own way. Except for now, right? This is interfering, isn't it? Except for in various instances where the children and siblings stray too far off course. This time, I'm the one left unsure of what to say. I'd always seen the parents as all-knowing beings with only good intentions for their children. But now, how do I know they can even be trusted? What I do know is that the monitor is apparently able to hear all my thoughts, so he definitely heard that. Still, he doesn't say anything, just regarding me silently. So, I guess you can't tell me what the purpose of all this is then. The Galaxias as a whole? That knowledge has not been earned by the Sapiens yet. My mistrust grows. Well, can you give me something, anything that might help me with getting Amicus out of the dungeon? If I'm straying off the course, then tell me how to get back on it. The monitor pauses for a moment, as if getting more information from the parents. Watch the cat. The cat. Alexios? I wait, but again I get silence. I shake my head. If the parents are all-knowing and all-powerful, then why can't they just tell me? We are neither of these things, hence why we must be so careful. I just stand there, unsure of what else to do. I look around. Is Cassius alright? The false emperor? Yes, he's around here somewhere. The monitor looks away dismissively. Did he hear us? No, he's too busy panicking. A side effect of being a coward imposter. I frown, feeling that's a bit harsh even on someone like Cassius. Can you help him? Maybe bring him here? I get a feeling from the monitor that I can only describe as an annoyed sigh. I suppose. A few moments pass before I start to see something appear next to me. The unmistakable shape of Cassius materializes, frightened and shaking. He immediately sees me. Marco, where are we? What's happened? Are you... Then he sees the monitor. Ah! He jumps behind me, shielding himself from the creature. The demon! Help me! I get that feeling of amusement from the dragon creature again, and I frown. Have you been scaring him? I get the feeling of a shrug from the creature. If he's scared, that's his choice. And the parents are okay with you doing that? Possibly not, but the white wolf means little to them. What? That seems to get Cassius's attention as he pokes his head around my side to glare at the monitor. Excuse me, but I am the Emperor. No, you are not. Wait, was that Cato? Hold up. I frown, the scene growing more and more surreal before me. Excuse me? Cassius seems unable to think of anything else to say. Just as I'm about to step between the two of them, I find myself unable to hold my consciousness together any longer and I begin to drift off. Okay, we can get rid of the lizard head now. Slowly, I come to on the sofa, my eyes cracking open as I wince at the throbbing headache I have. There's a cold sensation around my mouth, and I reach up to feel that I've been drooling all over myself. I roll over, feeling a wave of dizziness as I do. I pause there, waiting for the wooziness to pass. When it finally does, I'm able to focus better on my surroundings. I stare a full 10 seconds before I remember where I am and what I'm doing there. I look over at the bed and see Cassius laying spread eagle on the covers, his eyes fluttering. I watch him for a while, realizing that he's still unconscious. He did take in a lot more of the drug than I had, so I guess that makes sense. Very slowly, I slide my legs off of the sofa and sit there as a second dizzy spell overtakes me. I wait a solid minute for this one to pass, so that when I stand up, I don't end up just falling over. When I'm able to do that, I stumble to the bathroom, feeling more and more clear-headed by the second. When I get to the sink, I rest there, staring at myself in the mirror. My eyes are red and my hair is messed up in every direction. I wet one of those towels and wash my face, and by the time I'm finished, I feel mostly better. As I rest there against the sink, I think back to what just happened. Not the drug trip I'd been set and done, but what I'd been told. All the dreams I'd had since being on this moon, I remember everything. I don't know if it's real or not, if I'd really just spoken to the parents. It had seemed too intricate to not be real. My mind wouldn't be able to make up something like that, would it? Then again, I don't know what Cassius was smoking. As if on cue, I hear the wolf snort in the bedroom and I make my way out of the bathroom, finding Cassius on his side now, facing away from me. Cassius? Slowly, I walk around the bed and see that the wolf's eyes, just as red as mine, are open, staring off into space. I try again. Cassius, you okay? The wolf mumbles something, not even looking at me. I walk up to the side of the bed, reaching out tentatively before gently touching him on the arm. That seems to jolt him from his daze and he jerks away, gasping in surprise and fear as he pulls back and looks up at me. I hold my hands to show him that I mean no harm and he stares at me for what feels like over a minute. Finally, he mumbles out my name. Marco. I nod slowly, not wanting to make any sudden movements. Yes, I'm Marco. You're in the palace, in Amicus' old group. I know where I am, idiot. Seems like he's returning to his old self. Well, that's good. You had a pretty bad reaction to whatever that was. Cassius is pushing himself up to a sitting position, doing it slowly just like I had. He lets his head hang for a while, probably going through the same dizzy spells I just experienced. I wait patiently, deciding to move back over to the sofa while I do. His ears perk up as I sit down and he looks back up at me. What are you doing? I frown. What do you mean? I mean, why are you still here? You may leave. I guess I could. I just want to make sure you're okay first. Cassius lets out a soft, indignant snort. You think I believe that? You're dismissed. I give him an incredulous look. Seriously, first of all, this is Amicus' room. Second, I'm a Chemian. I don't see you ordering Neferu like that. This time, Cassius lets out a louder snort. Ha! He's royalty and an actual Chemian. You think I'd pay you the same? Chemians see all their citizens as equals, and I'm worth just as much as he is in their eyes. Instead of snapping back, Cassius just lowers his head, eyes closed before he lets out a deep, forlorn sigh. I'm tired. If you wish to antagonize me, please leave it for another time. I've been pushing the boundaries with Cassius on purpose to see what the limits are, and I'm getting more and more comfortable conversing with him without fear. Still, I'm a bit taken aback by Cassius' sudden tone of defeat. It's one I haven't heard often. We're both silent for a minute or so, then I finally speak up. So what was that? That smoked stuff. It was a drug, right? Cassius is silent for a bit longer, and I wonder if he's going to ask me to leave again. But instead, he just sighs and finally looks up, his eyes looking a bit more clear now. It's called Somni, a plant from the southern region of this continent. It helps us connect to the parents. Yeah, you said it's the traditional way? The old way, yes. Usually we communicate through parental tech, but as you know, they're not currently speaking with us with that method. So this forces it to happen? In a way. Does it work? Cassius glares at me. You would know. You were there. I go silent, that statement coming as a surprise to me. I'd seen Cassius, of course, but I'd thought it had only been part of the hallucination. You saw me? Oh, please, Simeon, or whatever the hell you are. You're only trying to humiliate me further. I was right next to you. So that it had been real? I sit back on my hands, contemplating all of this. I've read about DMT experiences back on Earth, how if you break through, you can meet extra-dimensional beings that tell you the secrets of the universe. I could have considered my experience to be all in my head, but if Cassius was actually there... I noticed then that Cassius is looking very closely at me, gauging my expression. What? He spoke to you, didn't he? What did he say? Try to think of what to say. If this is real, then I doubt telling Cassius everything will help me out in any way. He must see the hesitation on my face because his fur bristles. The Emperor demands you tell him what they told you. I glance up at Cassius, feeling less and less afraid of him with every threat he sends my way. He really is all bark and no bite. He just sort of asked me what I was doing there. That's it. Cassius glares down at me before finally seeming defeated once again, looking down. But he seemed okay with me being here. He was a monitor, too. I don't think Amicus is in trouble. Cassius shakes his head. I don't trust anything he said. He was a demon. I sigh. What did they say to you? You looked pretty scared. I was not scared. I let out an involuntary laugh before I can stop it. Damn you. I was simply unprepared for the experience. It was much more intense than the previous one I had. That's all. Cassius looks at the ground again, and I can see that the insides of his ears are burning red. I know that laughing at him was a shitty move on my part. I should be working to get him on my side to help him. Okay. So if y'all have seen Attack on Titan Season 4, I thought... Let me just show you what I'm thinking of. Display capture. This is what I'm thinking of Marco doing. I should be working to get him on my side to help Amicus. I'm making an effort to get my expression under control. Listen, I'm not against you, Cassius. Actually, I think we're working together here. I'm just trying to figure out how best to help your brother. Cassius continues to stare silently at the floor, though I see an ear twitch as if acknowledging what I just said. If we're going to work together, we need to be at least a bit honest with each other. Maybe I could help you figure some stuff out. I realize how hypocritical that is, especially considering that I'm hiding what the parents had just told me. Cassius lets out a skeptical huff. You help me? Yes. Cassius seems to contemplate, then shakes his head. Well, nothing there could help us. They simply torment me when I try to communicate with them. Torment? They appear as demons and taunt me. It seems that the parents truly do want to cut off contact with us, which I'm fine with. Cassius says that last part with such meek defiance that I almost feel sorry for him. Maybe it was the drug. I've heard plenty of stories of people freaking out on mind-altering stuff, especially if they have problems with anxiety. I do not have a weak mind, Marco. That doesn't mean you have a weak mind. Sometimes you just... Enough. I will not have you speculating about my mental capacities. No, I shouldn't. This time, I'm the one sighing, wondering for the 100th time how the hell this wolf is Amicus' brother. So they didn't say anything to you? Cassius pauses, a frown tugging at the corners of his mouth. No. I raise an eyebrow at him. What? Of course they said things to me, but nothing useful. You sure? Of course I'm sure. The parents have turned on us. That's all I need to know. I think back to the conversation we'd had in the hallucination. The monitor had told both of us that Cassius isn't the Emperor, and if Cassius had heard what I heard, then that's probably what he's thinking about right now. But I know now isn't the time to challenge him, and I can tell that he's still trying to recover from his trip. Still looking at him right now, staring at the ground, looking disheveled and defeated, I feel myself wanting to help him. Out of everyone on this moon, he seems to be the most stressed out, and I feel bad for him despite everything that's happened. but I know he doesn't want my pity right now. So I eventually leave Cassius alone on the bed and wander back out into the halls, feeling as if weeks had passed since I'd last been out here. I think back to what that dragon-like creature had told me about how I'm here for a reason, that this has all been planned out. Planned out by parents who seem to be completely frustrated at the behavior of the wolves and their inability to follow through on their plans. For a brief moment, I wonder how much more smoothly things would have gone if I'd been abducted by someone like Neferu and taken to somewhere like Chemia. But then I wouldn't have met Amicus. Besides, it seems like it's just the wolves that are giving the parents problems, not the other siblings. Which reminds me of the only bit of advice that the parents had given me. Watch the cat. Spy on Alexios. That's something that I can do, if I'm careful. Despite the new level of scrutiny I've fallen under, I've also been walking around the halls of the palace for the past few days without incident. I've even come across Cato a few times, but for whatever reason, he's completely ignored me. All for the better. So I start to scour the palace for the cat. He's actually pretty hard to find when he's not looking for you, but I at least know that he's usually in the gardens, if not in the hallways watering the plants. So after eating a quick lunch, I decide to start my search in the gardens. I look back and forth through the foliage as I walk quietly along the various pathways. It's quiet, pleasant, and peaceful, but after everything that's happened, it has an ominous edge to it, like something could jump out at me at any moment. I do this for about half an hour before I start to realize how fruitless this search might be. Alex will be hard to find even if he was out here, and besides, he could even be all the way out in the city doing his ambassador work, whatever that is. Just as I'm about to give up, I hear something, sniffling, gasping, and crying? I pause, listening. It's a bit difficult to hear through the slight rustling of leaves in the wind, but there's definitely someone out here that just sounds upset. I can't really tell who it might be since it sounds like they're trying to keep quiet. That, and there's another sound too, another voice, and this one I recognize, Alex. It's a soft murmuring sound, like he's soothing someone, probably the person who's crying. I wait there a few moments, waiting to see if the sound fades or gets closer, which would tell me if they're moving, but it stays constant. So, convinced that they're sitting down, or at least standing in the same spot, I creep closer to where the sound is coming from. It's in a secluded part of the gardens, coming up from a small square that's surrounded by trees and bushes. I'm familiar with this square, the one with the statue of Drusus where I'd been laid out to die. I know that I can't use the little path that leads to the statue. I'd be seen for sure. So I walk up to the bushes that surround it and start looking for a break in the various branches and leaves. The sobbing now continues, and I hear Alex's voice more clearly now. I still can't quite tell exactly what he's saying, but I catch the occasional "don't worry" and "all is well." I can't imagine what's happening in there. Start to wonder if this is exactly what the parents had hoped I would come across, and my heart starts to hammer in my chest. Am I about to find something that's going to help me out of the mess we're in? I finally find a thinner coverage in the foliage and I'm able to see through. First I see Alex, his back to me, crouched on the ground in front of the statue. He's draped over someone hugging them, his face pressed to the side of their head. I can only see their ears and parts of their shoulders, but I know right away that it's Cassius. He's got his head bowed deeply toward the ground, his paws to his face, shaking with his sobs. Alex hugs him tightly, whispering into his ear, clearly trying to comfort him. Cassius only responds with an occasional shake of his head before finally blurting out, "But am I a fraud?" His voice squeaks uncharacteristically on the last word, and Alex responds with a gentle "shh" before nuzzling the wolf's muzzle. I watch for a few more moments before drawing back, feeling uncomfortable, knowing that this is a private moment between the two of them. I know now that this won't exactly help me in any way aside from making me feel even worse for Cassius. Still, I found Alex, so I move away, toward a bench that's further up the path, one that gives me a good view of the entrance to the square and at a distance that won't make me seem suspicious. A good 10 minutes pass before there's any movement. First Cassius comes out. In the process of straightening out his armor, his expression blank as he stalks up the path, away from me. I waited a good while, maybe another 5 minutes, wondering if Alex somehow took a different exit from the square. But at that moment, I see him walk out, looking completely neutral as he looks around. I freeze up, positive that he's about to see me, even though that would be okay, but instead he walks straight ahead, toward the pond. I watch him go for a while, then follow. It feels strange trying to spy on the pet ambassador like this, especially when I have no idea what I'm doing. But this is the only hint I was given to free Amicus, and if this is the only way, then I'm going to do it. And we're going to leave off there. Okay, I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for the heartbreak that is last moment. Mentally prepare. Mentally prepare. Okay. So like I said, the YouTube channel is completely caught up. Well, aside from this, but I'll just do some very slight editing and then do it that way. Yeah, the YouTube is all caught up. And yeah. So anyways, stay safe. Have a good night.